Board and community, the time is now 9:47 a.m. and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting of March 12th, 2024 is called to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda in order of priority. Are there any items that board members would like to add or delete from the agenda? President Pugh, do you have anything for us?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. There is on the agenda the discussion of Miley and the continuation of the discussion that we were going to have related to Board Member McMillan's request to have a discussion, and I want to remove that item.
Okay, so there is a request to remove last month's resolution of Mr. McMillan, which is deep on the agenda in the afternoon. This is last month's resolution relative to my leave, not this month's resolution relative to my leave. So we have a motion to remove the old resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Senator Bullock. Any discussion? Dr. Pugh.
I'll just add that it's item K I on the action under action items.
Okay.
On the back of the agenda.
Very good. So we have a motion. We have a second. We've had a modicum of discussion. Mr. McMillan.
I do have a resolution that's somewhat different than the one from last month that we'll vote on here in a few minutes. If I knew that was going to get approved, I'd be okay with removing this one. However, since there's a chance that it won't be approved, then I'd rather at least have this on here so that there can be the discussion item that could continue, whether or not the resolution gets postponed, changed, or whatever. So I'll oppose this. However, I would support it if I knew that there was going to be support for my resolution here coming up.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second. We've had some discussion. Dr. Pugh, anything else?
Yes, I just want to say that when we put this item on the agenda, we were going to have further discussion during the legislative meeting, and that meeting didn't take place in the normal way that it typically does, and so I just wanted to add that. And then we did not have, and when you put that item on the agenda last month, we've gotten more information since then, and have had a little bit more time to think through some of the budget items that have been proposed by the governor, and so I will say that.
Okay, so we've got a motion, a second. We've had some discussion. This is on the removal of Mr. McMillan's resolution from last month's agenda, removing it from this month's agenda. Hearing no more interest in...
Can I just ask a question?
Please.
So are you stating that the governor has spoken to you and some of the board members?
No, I'm saying that no, I'm not saying that. If you were asking me.
Because you said we now have information that we
have,
didn't have then.
We have
we and what information?
Anyone who has read a little bit more about what the legislative budget proposal looks like, and we will continue to have more information unfold. I have not had a conversation. Most of us were at a legislative luncheon, and we had an opportunity to hear some information about the budget, but no, we have not had a formal conversation. I just think that over the weeks and since our last meeting, we've had a little bit more information to unfold and better understand the budget, as always happens.
Understood.
Okay, so we've got a motion, a second, to remove the old resolution from the afternoon's agenda. Hearing no more interest in discussion, Ms. Evans, a roll call vote.
Bullock?
Yes.
Lipton?
Yes.
McMillan?
No.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
No.
And Tilly?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, Ms. McMillan, Any other additional motions?
Yes, I would like to add a resolution onto section 12 of the agenda. Resolution opposing portions of the governor's fiscal year 24-25 budget. And this would not be the time to read it in, right? Or
It says you choose.
is there support?
I would read it, yes, there's support.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second.
Okay.
If you'd like to read it
Yeah.
into the record now, that's fine.
Okay. Whereas the state constitution of Michigan, Article 8, Section 3 says, quote, leadership and general supervision over all public education, including adult education and instructional programs in state institutions, except as to institutions of higher education granting baccalaureate degrees, is vested in a state board of education. It shall serve as the general planning and coordinating body for all public education, including higher education, and shall advise the legislature as to the financial requirements in connection therewith. Whereas in February 2024, Governor Whitmer put forward her 2024-25 budget proposal that included, one, transfer of $414.5 million in federal child care payments that go to child care providers on behalf of parents from Michigan Department of Education, MDE, to the Michigan Department of Lifelong Education Advancement and Potential, MyLEAP. Number two, the transfer of $15.7 million to fund 77 Office of Great Start positions from MDE to MyLEAP. Number three, $155 million for MyLEAP to create a committee for literacy achievement, working with higher education institutions that would critically evaluate literacy professional development and rank literacy curricula, basing awards to districts on the rank of the district's selected curricula. Four, $10 million for MyLEAP and the Literacy Committee to establish a Read Innovation competition that would foster district-led innovations in literacy instruction grounded in the science of reading. Whereas the above four budget proposals clearly violate Article 8, Section 3 of the state constitution, be it resolved that the Michigan State Board of Education opposes the four sections above contained in the governor's fiscal year 24-25 proposed budget and urges the legislature to reject the transfers out of MDE and into MyLEAP described above, and to remove all proposed literacy funding from MyLEAP and place it under the MDE budget.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Mr. McMillan has read it into the record. Would you like to speak to the logic of placement on the agenda?
Yes, thank you. I guess I would like to have this dealt with. I understand that it may go to a committee, or the subject might, but I do think that being in the legislature, I know that discussions are happening today, tomorrow, and continuing, and I'd rather not wait until the April meeting. I think that preliminary decisions could be made between now and then by legislators on the budget. So I would like to make sure that this body is on record opposing these, or at least some of these. I understand there may be some that would like to have some discussion, which is great. That's why we're just putting it on the agenda, and then we can have the discussion as far as which items might or might not be best to leave on here. But I do think that, we should have said something last month. We weren't quite ready. I do think this month is the right time to have those discussions and to take a position, at least on areas where we would agree that we have concerns, and not wait until April. So, and maybe April there won't be as well. I just would like to have that discussion and vote now. So that's why I put this forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McMillan. Other board members for their reflections? Ms. Lipton.
I would just like to observe that having served on the Appropriations Committee when I was in the legislature, the observation that budgets are being discussed now is very, very pertinent. The discussions regarding the budget and those that want to have sort of a seat at the table, if you will, are happening right now. And I do think that it's important to just keep in mind that the budget that the legislature is looking at is very much happening like right now. So there's a timeliness to this.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Other board members?
I will just say that, I do take the advising of those who have sat on the legislature. I also want to make sure that we have an opportunity to get legal counsel on some of these items. So I am okay with us having this discussion in the afternoon and tweaking this and amending this resolution, but also would like to make sure that we have the opportunity to go into a session, legislative session, a closed session, where we can get information from legal counsel.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Pugh. Other reflections from other board members? Ms. Snyder?
Genuinely speaking, I really do want to have this discussion and figure out how, as a board, we can move together. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Other board members' reflections? Going once, twice, thrice. Hearing and seeing none, this is a vote to place Mr. McMillan's second MyLeap resolution on the agenda this afternoon. Ms. Evans, a roll call vote, please.
Bullock,
No.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
No.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Board. Any additional items, additional motions to be considered? Dr. Pugh?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Rice, I'm sorry. We would like to,
Pam, jump all the way down.
place on the agenda a resolution for the superintendent's annual evaluation. And so we'll have another vote later today, but I move that the superintendent's annual evaluation resolution. And if I can read it.
You want to hold off and read that later?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Support.
We have a second motion by Dr. Pugh, second by Dr. Pritchett. Any discussion? Hearing none, a roll call vote to put it on the agenda.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
No.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Pass.
and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Board. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as amended? This is not a trick. Thank you very much, Dr. Robinson. We have Dr. Robinson moves. Do we have a second? Second by Mr. Bullock. Is there any discussion associated with the motion to approve the agenda as amended? Hearing and seeing none, a roll call vote, please.
Bullock,
Yes.
Lipton,
Yes.
McMillan,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
Robinson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Pass.
and Tilly.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Board members, it's 10:01. At this time, is Liz Evans, State Board Executive, will introduce members of the State Board of Education.
Good morning. You have just been listening to Dr. Michael Rice, Chairperson of the State Board and State Superintendent. To his left around the table, we have Board President Dr. Pamela Pugh from Saginaw, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Ellen Cogan-Lipton from Huntington Woods, NASB Delegate Dr. Mitchell Robinson from Okemos, Ms. Nikki Snyder from Dexter, and Ms. Candace Jackson, Michigan Teacher of the Year. Back to the table to my right are Mr. Tom McMillan from Oakland Township, Board Treasurer Mr. Marshall Bullock from Detroit, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Tiffany Tilley from West Bloomfield, and Board Secretary Dr. Judith Pritchett from Washington Township. Virtually, we have joining us today Ms. Stephanie O'Day, the Governor's K-12 Policy Advisor ex officio.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. The public may register to provide comment during the public participation portion of the meeting at approximately 1 p.m. Those wishing to make public comment must register before 1 p.m. To provide public comment by telephone, please complete the registration form on the MDE webpage, www.michigan.gov/MDE. To provide public comment in person, please complete a green public comment form when you arrive here at the meeting location. These instructions are listed on the MDE webpage at www.michigan.gov/MDE. Board, before we get going into today's agenda items, I'd like to take a moment to introduce to the full board and to members of the community a new staff member, Mr. Bob Wheaton. He is our new director in the Office of Public and Governmental Affairs. He comes to us from the Department of Health and Human Services after a long career in journalism. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you.
And Dr. Robinson has already suggested that Mr. Wheaton needs to bring donuts to the next state board meeting. Board, at 10:03, the first item on today's agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting is the presentation by the Teachers of the Year on visual arts with a social and emotional learning focus. We welcome Ms. Candace Jackson, the Michigan Teacher of the Year, a third grade teacher from Mann Learning Community in Detroit Public Schools Community District. We also have joining us Ms. Jamie Hilasky, the Region 7 Teacher of the Year, a visual arts teacher at Schoolcraft Junior/Senior High School in Schoolcraft Community Schools. Lastly, we welcome students from Schoolcraft Community Schools. They have come to share their artwork and the impact that the artwork has had on their lives. Joining us are Madeline, Caitlin, and Cody. This is an informational presentation. No board action is required. Teachers of the Year and Schoolcraft students, welcome. Good morning.
First off, thank you for allowing us the time to present to you and having us here. My name is Jamie Hilasky, so just a quick bit about me, and then I'm going to let these guys take over. I'm the Region 7 Teacher of the Year. I teach at Schoolcraft High School, junior, senior high. We're kind of still working out the name for that school. We became a 712 campus 2 years ago, and that's why we're kind of in between. I teach arts, but I'm also the 7th grade camp director there, so we run our own camp program. We're licensed through the state, and that's coming up here at the end of April. I have been teaching, this is my 11th year teaching. I've only taught at Schoolcraft. I'm married to my husband for almost 14 years in May. We have 4 boys. We have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, and then we have twins who will be 1 here in just a few days. So we are busy when it comes to sports and all that. Some of the pictures you can see on the slide is a lot of the artwork around the school. One of my favorite things we do is I allow our seniors to make a ceiling tile and kind of leave their mark on the school. And we've filled up my room with a ceiling tile, so now we're out into the hallway. And then the kids have had a lot of fun doing a lot of mural work. So our school is full of artwork in the last few years, which is really exciting to see. So today we're going to talk to you guys and share a little bit about kind of how the arts have impacted these 3 particularly, but also how the arts naturally incorporate SEL into the work. And so I'm going to let Madeline start and take it away.
My name is Maddie, and this is my first year taking art class in high school. My connection to the arts, up until this year, my participation in arts has taken place mostly outside of school. Personally, I enjoy to draw and paint, and finding enjoyment in this hobby has given me a chance to make more of a connection with myself and those around me as well. It has also provided a sense of relief in stressful moments or scenarios, and this passion leads back to when I was little and has been something I've grown up around. I didn't have a great relationship with my mom when I was younger, but artwork was always something I could use to connect with her. And although that we don't see each other anymore, the arts are still something constant in my life and something I very much enjoy. Why are the arts important? The arts can give an opportunity for not only students, but for anyone who were to pick it up as a hobby to express themselves, and I believe that it can also be a very therapeutic process, and it can give everyone the opportunity to be creative.
All right, Caitlin's going to share her story.
My name is Caitlin. I'm also a junior, and this has also been my first year taking a high school art class. When I was younger, I was a crafty kid, but like I never thought I was that good at art. I would always do like the kits from Barnes and Nobles, but they would never work out perfectly, or I'd take art class at school and it never be how it was supposed to be. So I liked it. It was relaxing, it was fun, but I never thought I was that good at it. A couple years ago, I started getting into making jewelry or doing my nails. It was just something fun to do. But I realize now that that is another form of art. And art is something that has such a wide range to it. There's so much that can be considered art. And that can really create confidence in people because in art class, you are forced to do different projects and experiment with different mediums. And you'll learn what you're good at and what you're not good at. And you'll also learn how to fail and to not do a project as well as you wanted it to be. And so when you do find what you're good at, it really creates a confidence in students because there's so much that can be considered art.
All right, and then lastly, Cody's going to share his story.
Hello everyone, I'm Cody Copeland and I'm in 12th grade. I first started really taking art seriously when I was put in Mrs. Hylaski's Art 1 class. She was the one that really got me into art. And this is when I found my love for painting. Painting I would say is my favorite medium because there's so much variety in it. There's many different types of paint, many different types of brushes, many different techniques you could use that I used in my art pieces. And in the time between 10th and 12th grade, I was not in art class, but I still did a lot of art, mostly like detailed drawings of like cars and like anime characters. But then I have art this year in 12th grade now, and this when I did my first drawing, my first like grid drawing, my first still life drawing, and my first Hanimal, which are these like, hand puppets, kind of. And I also did my best painting to date. It's really cool. And I think art should be available for, all students, not just high school students, I think everywhere. Because I really grew confidence in my art ability over these years, and I got to have a choice on how I got to execute my project, and I really grew as a person because in art, not everything is handed to you on a silver platter. If you really want to get good at art, you really have to put in the work and research and, take the time to practice these skills. And, that really helps with like, critical thinking skills and like problem solving and stuff and like learning new things, and that's why I think art should be available for everyone.
I'm going to continue on, and then at the end, if you guys have any questions, we can ask those then. So I'll be sharing a little bit more on kind of expanding what they shared and their personal stories of how the arts naturally kind of incorporate social emotional learning. I'll be sharing both visual and performing arts examples. However, my expertise area is in the visual arts, so there'll probably be a little more of those examples. I hope by presenting this today is to kind of bring a little bit more awareness of how the arts can incorporate this SEL learning, which is really important in our students, but maybe to start like spinning wheels on the idea of arts integration in schools to maybe incorporate SEL learning as another avenue down the road. So why this topic? Here's some examples of artwork from the past of my students and some observations I've kind of made over the years. Before COVID, when I first started teaching, probably the first 4 or 5 years, a lot of the artwork subject matter that students presented was very lighthearted. It was often like feel good. They just really wanted to make it look nice and neat. A lot of the topics that they would tackle were things like hobbies or things that made them happy. You've got that painting of their dog, donuts, cake. Who doesn't like donuts and cake? But it was more about the execution, the end result, rather than like a huge storytelling. I would see some emotion in their artwork, often dealing with like relationships though. Like if there was a breakup, then that might show up in their work. Or if they were in love, that might show up in their work. But it was very kind of easygoing, lighthearted stuff. Moving on to post-COVID. It's no shock that COVID impacted everybody, including our youth. But I felt like the shift in subject matter changed a lot within the artwork. And I'm not saying this is for every single project we do by any means. But if the students were able to have any storytelling aspect in their work, a lot of times it would be more of a therapeutic outlet for them rather than a happy-go-lucky, nice-looking work of art. And so you would see a lot of artwork that had, it was centered around like anxiety or depression or life stressors in general. Maybe they didn't fit in. When it was, our voting year, a lot of political issues were put out on paper. I've never seen so many teens so invested in politics, which is a good thing. They're finding their voice. A lot of violence, things that are going on in our world, they're aware of, and they're putting it into their artwork. And then, of course, the whole mental health realm as well. And so I found that students were using art as another voice, as another way to kind of express themselves. And it was kind of eye-opening for me. So looking at why social emotional learning then when it comes to the arts, first and foremost, and it's always been this way for me, is my students' well-being. I always want to make sure that they're taken care of, that they're becoming the best versions of themselves. Yes, to me, art is important. It's something I enjoy. It's something I want them to enjoy. But bigger than that is I want them to leave a better version of themselves than when they walk through my doors. And SEL kind of opens the door to allowing us to help our students in a way that is still within our area of expertise. So mental well-being is not, I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. However, being a teacher, we have to wear a lot of different hats. And so how can I help my students in a way that keeps me in my lane, that keeps me in my area of expertise? And SEL is one of those areas that I think we can do that. So just a refresher or an introduction if anybody's not familiar with social emotional learning. I know Brandy Clark, Region 2, I think, from Traverse City, she presented on this back in October. But there's kind of the 5 broad areas that we're going to look at today, and I'm going to share examples of each one within the arts education. So self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. Looking at the graphic here, it's kind of set up in a certain way where you've got your 5 competencies in the center. They're kind of the core. And surrounding those are your 4 key settings where students live and grow and prosper. We as educators can really help make an impact at the classroom level, as well as our school and our district levels. In the classroom, we can weave SEL content into our current curriculum, so without making a huge shift in what we're already doing, we can tie these skills in with our current curriculum, and it's free. Our school, if your whole school is on board and your whole school has a concerted effort, there's research that shows that you can have a really positive impact with SEL learning. And then at the district level, again, having systems in place to allow for feedback, revision, and reviewing. So what I want to do next is talk about kind of, again, why the SEL when it comes to the arts. Social emotional learning really can help students become their best versions of them. It helps with human growth and education. They might leave my room knowing how to draw better and have the confidence in that. And I loved hearing that from these guys. I love that each of them found a connection to the arts that hopefully will be a lifelong thing. But not every student that walks in my room is going to do that. Some kids are placed in my class because there's nowhere else to go, and I hope they enjoy their time while they're in there, but they might not leave ever wanting to draw again, and that's okay. I hope that they leave with some soft skills that they can use in the real world, and that's where the SEL part kind of comes in. It helps develop healthy identities, kids can learn how to manage their emotions, how to set and achieve goals, learning how to walk in somebody else's shoes through empathy, creating meaningful relationships, and then making responsible decisions. So now looking at the 5 core competencies, I want to give an example of each one within the arts education. So first, looking at social awareness, so being able to see somebody else's perspective, being able to show empathy and identify diverse norms. Within arts education, students are able to use their voice and experiences through their artwork or performance. When they do this, when they're using their own experiences, they're giving a piece of them to everybody else who can visually see it, and it starts conversation. So when somebody is presenting something about themselves that maybe somebody else didn't know about them, it starts that conversation of other people's experiences, other people's cultures, other people's differences, and it opens the door to be able to get to know other things outside of themselves. And I think that's really a cool thing about the arts, is that you are able to have those conversations because of the things they are producing and they're showing to their classmates. Relationship skills, so being able to communicate effectively, develop positive relationships, collaborate, problem solve, and navigate conflicts. I see this on a regular basis, just in the sense that in my classroom specifically, students are encouraged to have conversations while they're working. I think it's important to develop those social skills and practice them on a regular basis. So sometimes they're talking about the art and they're bouncing ideas off of each other and brainstorming, and they're problem solving together collaboratively. Sometimes they're not talking about art at all, but they're talking about things outside of school, and that's practicing, having conversations that are appropriate in the setting you're in and being able to learn about other people. When it comes to like band, dance, and theater performances, you have to build trust with the whole group because you're working together for a huge end result, like a performance or recital. And so you do have to build those positive relationships in order to succeed in the end with your final performance. Self-awareness, being able to identify one's own feelings, thoughts, and values. I actually just did a project with my students where we intentionally did a self-awareness piece, and the kids had to identify 5 positive traits about themselves before they could actually launch into the project itself. That was hard for a lot of them. To be able to sit down and list 5 positive things, I had a lot of kids whipping out their phone and start texting somebody, which of course they got the reminder that they're not supposed to use their phones in class. But I asked them, why do you feel like you have to lean on somebody else? I can't list 5 positive things about myself. I don't have 5 positive things. That opened the door to having conversations with each kid that struggled in those areas to either talk to somebody near them, talk to me, and kind of try to identify. And we did find 5 for every single kid. So they walked away with at least having 5 more positive things about themselves that maybe they just didn't recognize before. Dance and theater use their body as a medium to show feeling and emotion. So they have to connect to that in order to be successful in their end result as well. So they're connecting and have to identify their feelings and how they're feeling and how they want to show that. When it comes to self-management, being able to manage one's emotions, behaviors, and thoughts to help achieve goals. In the arts, everything is sound kind of positive so far, but in the arts, students have to come face to face with a lot of challenges that they actually might face in the real world, such as performance anxiety, taking risks, maybe persevering through something that's not going according to plan. I think Caitlin had mentioned something like that when she was talking. They get that chance to practice those hard challenges and how to cope with them and overcome those challenges so that they can be successful. They'll learn that failure is okay and that it's okay that something doesn't turn out the right way, but maybe grab that small thing that you did get out of the process rather than the product in the end. And so I think that's important to reflect on as well within the arts education. And then lastly, talking about responsible decision making. A lot of students go in knowing what they like or thinking what they're not good at. I don't know how many times I've heard, I can't art, or the best thing I've got for you is a stick figure. And to them, I say challenge accepted, and you will not leave drawing a stick figure. You will be better than that. But they get the chance to make decisions daily on concepts, materials, who they get to sit by, and all those choices in the end show either success or they have to adjust because maybe that person they're sitting by isn't the best choice for them to be productive in the classroom. Maybe that material they used isn't their strong suit, so the next time they pick something they're more comfortable with. I allow a lot of choice in my classroom for that reason. And so they get the chance to be successful and grow if they're willing to make responsible decisions based on the knowledge that they're getting. In the art room or in the visual or performing arts as well, they get to try new materials, but they have to use it in a responsible manner in order to continue to use those. So they have to make those decisions that they're using them the right way in order to continue using them. And then again, going back to band, theater, and dance, you're a part of a team. If you're not practicing and you're not holding up your end, you're going to impact the whole group in the end during your recital or your performance or your end outcome. So you have to be responsible in the sense of evaluating those consequences if you're not taking the time to put in your own effort for a group project. So just to wrap this all up for our section of this presentation, the arts are a very powerful vessel for social emotional learning to occur naturally. They just kind of go hand in hand. But I do want to put in a side note that this stuff's only going to take place in an environment where kids feel welcome and safe. It's not going to naturally happen if kids don't feel okay and welcome to express themselves. So if they don't feel safe, they're not going to open up that side. So that's very important to make sure that that's understood. And then I think it would be really neat to see an intentional arts integration or opportunity for all youth across the state of Michigan. There's a lot of research out there that there's long-term positive outcomes with intentional social emotional learning integration within schools. Do you want to switch slides? Okay.
All right, good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It feels weird to say good morning because I'm always in the afternoon. I think it's great that Jamie decided to talk about SEL because Friday we just had Social Emotional Learning Day in the schools. So I'm hoping everyone, all the teachers out there, you had a great time celebrating that day in your classroom and that you all highlighted the importance of SEL in the classroom. Research confirms that there are long-term benefits for SEL. There's the academic achievement benefit, social and emotional skill development, well-being, just overall well-being of the students and the staff, and then behavior. If you want to get behavior up, you should pour into SEL and other character development programs because there are benefits in it. Jamie kind of focused on the five components on the center of the wheel. In my presentation that I'm going to talk about are the 4 layers on the outside, so the places where SEL can be developed, because we know that students can develop skills wherever they are, anywhere that they're living and learning, they can develop these skills. So whether it's in the classroom, in the school, at home with their families, and in their community, SEL skills are taught in all of those places. We know that classrooms, obviously, because students spend most of their time there, that's a place where they get a lot of SEL. So because these are at the heart of the learning process, and in a classroom, students, they learn and practice SEL skills through explicit instruction from the teacher, the relationships that the teacher is building, like the relationships that Jamie just discussed, creating that safe space, and then also these skills can be integrated into the academic skills as well. So the classroom is one of the primary places where we can teach these skills. But then also, if we think more globally, the school is a place where they can learn these skills, so not just in the classroom, but the school as a whole. So morning meetings, the signages up around the classroom, the activities, the team building activities, the parental engagement events, all of the things that make school, those things can foster supportive environments for children to learn these SEL skills and practice the skills that we want them to internalize, because I was reading a story or an article in Forbes, one of the, I think it was maybe 10 out of the 14 skills that they're looking for in hiring potential candidates are directly related to SEL. So if you can't regulate your emotions and work well with others and be self-reflective, then you're going to have a hard time being productive in the workforce. Parents and caregivers are also reinforcing and teaching SEL skills at home, even if they don't realize it. Family game night, encouraging your children to talk about their feelings, teaching them how to properly manage their emotion, teaching them skills like self-confidence. Those are, things that parents and caregivers can do for their students at home, or they don't call them students, but their children at home, to help reinforce these skills. Because like I said, SEL is not just taught in a classroom or in a school. These character traits are developed wherever they learn, and whether they're learning good or bad things, they're picking up things no matter where they are. And then community is also a place, and I'm not sure, that looks like the slides are a little bit out of order, but there's hundreds of independent studies that show that SEL has benefits, like I said, academic, mental health, skill development, and school climate. And if we can get the children to get into character development programs, or if we're instilling in them all of these traits that make them stronger individuals, like these soft skills, then we know that it's going to do nothing but benefit them. Again, like I said, I don't know why these two slides were reversed, but in the community, we don't often think about the community as being a place where they can learn these soft skills, but things like team sports or the YMCA or the community center, the programs that they have, if they have character development traits embedded in them, learning how to be a good team player, learning how to be a gracious loser, these are all soft skills that the children are learning in these places as well. And I think if we take a holistic approach to raising the children, or not necessarily raising the children, but lifting these skills to the children so that they are well-rounded and so that they can navigate the world with confidence and with the skills to interact with one another and be self-reflective and be able to take risks and be able to manage their emotions, then they're going to be better adults when they grow up. Updates. Last month I had the opportunity, it was Black History Month, so I attended a gala in Macomb County. It was called Macomb's Celebration of Black Excellence, and it was an opportunity for Macomb County to recognize notable African Americans who were doing things in the community. And there's a picture of myself and my boys at the gala. I was recognized in an area of academic impact. I also had the opportunity to go to the CCSSO orientation in Santa Clara, California. It actually conflicted with the meeting last month, so that's why I wasn't here. I got to meet 55 of the coolest people ever. I now have, friends all over the world, and I have a nephew in Hawaii because the Hawaii Teacher of the Year, she had just had a baby, and the baby came with her, so that was pretty cool. So the baby has aunties and uncles from all over the world, and it was so cute because she's, here, hold your nephew, and it was pretty cool. I think the highlight was obviously for me Google Camp. That was amazing. The campus is just as cool as you hear it is, and they even made pancakes in characters. You could give them a picture of your dog, and they would make a pancake that looked like your dog. It was amazing. In addition to Google Camp and CCSSO orientation last month, myself and the other regional teachers of the year, we went to Central Michigan University for the teacher prep program. I gave the keynote address to the graduating seniors, and then the regional teachers of the year, they were able to hold breakout sessions, and we did it in the fall as well. But I found that it's always a great experience to work with future teachers and pre-service teachers because their eyes are open wide and they're ripe for taking in what you're presenting. So that was a great experience. And then I had a true moment to geek out and be a super fan. I got to have a question and answer session with Dr. Godi Muhammad. She was kicking off her winter book tour for her new book. I think it's called Unearthing Joy. And she started out in Detroit. And I got to do a question and answer session with her at the bookstore. And there was quite a large crowd. And they got to answer questions after the two of us had a session, and hearing her perspectives on culturally responsive teaching. It was truly amazing. She was so gracious, and I learned a lot, and it was a great experience. And I think that the experience and meeting her, I think it made me a better teacher, made me more reflective of how I'm interacting with the kids that I am working with every day, because I think that if we can see them and acknowledge their differences, it makes the classroom environment that much better, and it makes it the children more engaged and ready to learn. And studies show that they do better academically. They come to school more when they feel as if they belong in a classroom. Couple of things that are not pictured. I had the opportunity to do a couple of school visits. I did go see Jennifer St. Major in Yale and visit her school. And then I also visited right here, the Lansing Public Schools with Nicole Miner. And I got to see Robin Murray's 50 years of hip hop exhibit. So talking about SEL and the arts, that exhibit was great, and seeing their expressions was very cool. And that's just case in point that SEL and the arts are really important, because those students were so proud of the projects that they had. Again, thank you guys for letting us present. Refreshing to be able to go in the morning. And if there's nothing else, I think we're ready for questions, if you guys have any.
Thank you, Teachers of the Year, Schoolcraft students. Thank you very much. Board members, questions or comments? Ms. Lipton.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Teacher of the Year, Regional Teacher of the Year, and the students. Not a question, but really just more of a comment, and just to continue to uplift your message. And that is the ability of subjects like the arts, the expansive view of the arts, to be able to make education more enjoyable, to be able to make your growth more enjoyable. I think that we spend so much time where education has become so much, testing and accumulation of knowledge, that we forget that, there's so much more to education, and you've really brought that to light. And I'm just so appreciative of that, because I think that we need to have more of that in education. So I guess maybe I will just ask a question, if each of you could just sort of just comment personally in terms of how the ability to explore arts has really sort of just enriched your experience as students and as human beings.
I would like to say that it definitely helped with, like my thinking skills, right? Coming up with different ideas of how to actually tackle the projects Miss Silasky gives us. So, coming up with new and creative ideas of how I actually, I'm going to do these projects has really helped with my thinking skills, Yeah.
Good job. Thank you.
It's been a really good outlet for me. I take some challenging courses at school, and I know heading into college I'm going to be taking a lot more challenging courses. So having the opportunity to explore different mediums right now, because I know that it will be relaxing in the future, has been really great, because then I don't have to worry about buying a bunch of supplies when I'm a broke college kid to experiment then. I just know, oh, I just need to get a tub of clay or a little watercolor set, and I'll be set. So it's been really nice.
It's really just helped me because in school you're at a desk, you're focused more on testing and the grade you're gonna get, and being in an art class, it really does allow you to like just have a little bit more freedom with what you're doing and like express yourself a little bit more and just talk to your peers, and it's fun. And with sports and everything too, it allows you to just like let go a little bit and relax. But
Sounds to me like there's an awful lot of learning and education going on. And the journey is as important as the end result. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Ms. Tilley?
Thank you all so much for sharing. This was really great. I think it's very profound how you're connecting SEL with art. When I was a young person, I thought about like my favorite creatives, their background, their history, and their stories, and how they overcame challenges like Van Gogh and Langston and Zora Neale Hurston. I didn't think about the components of what you guys were talking about today, like the personal growth you've experienced in art, the confidence builder it's been for you, and the relationship building and using it to connect. I think that's awesome, and I really appreciate you all being vulnerable and sharing your stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Any other board members? Dr. Pugh?
Just a couple of things. One, Ms. Candace, you mentioned that thank you for us letting you present to us, but we thank you for presenting and for level setting why we are here. And as we hear the term social and emotional learning, and it is something that has just come up recently, and we've used it much more. But, you know, as we look at it from over time, our education has always been about learning character, values, in addition to other subject matters. And I remember when I was younger, that was long ago, we even learned about mind your manners, which I think that's a part of what we're talking about here. But I reflect on some words from Dr. Martin Luther King, and he said, education must enable one to sift and weigh evidence, to discern the true from the false, the real from the unreal, and the facts from the fiction. Intelligence is not enough. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. And so I'm reminded of that as I listen to you all. And thank you to the teachers, our educators, but to our students.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Anything more from board members? Please, Mr. McMillan.
Yeah, I appreciate the presentation. I think about Young Zhao, one of my favorite education gurus, that talked about how we need to become more human. That a lot of he would talk against a lot of the high stakes testing, and if things aren't on the test, then they often aren't done in the schools. There's always been a worry that things like art would be squeezed out as they focus more on whatever's on the test. But I'm glad that there is a focus. I would imagine that it's not only just internal about feelings, but there's also some of the classical, art, whether it's historical, beauty, balance, symmetry. I would imagine transcendence. I would imagine all of that is also a part of what you're teaching and what's in the class.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And they're going to get their big art history section coming up, and I do it in the form of Survivor. Do you guys like that show? So they'll be in teams and competing and learning about it and reflecting on it, and so I'm excited for that. They haven't experienced it yet.
Okay. And the different artists and how they did art and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Any other board members? Presenters, great job. Thank you so much. The next item on today's agenda is a presentation on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, goal number 5, to increase the percentage of students who graduate from high school. We welcome our presenters at 10:42 a.m. Dr. Delsa Chapman, Deputy Superintendent of the Division of Educator, Student, and School Supports, and Dr. Michelle Harmala, Deputy Superintendent, P20 System and Student Transitions. This is an informational presentation. No board action is required. Presenters, welcome. We are a little bit behind, 42 minutes, but who's counting? Thank you for being concise.
Great. Good morning, board. Thank you, Dr. Rice. Dr. Chapman and I will be sharing the current data and strategic activities related to high school graduation for all of our students in Michigan. Our top 10 strategic education plan goal 5 focuses on increasing the percentage of all students who graduate from high school. And our agenda for today will include an in-depth look at the graduation rates for Michigan students over the last 10 years. We'll also share data for demographic categories, rates by ethnicity and gender, for English language learners, students who are economically disadvantaged, and our students with disabilities. And last, we'll provide a brief update on a variety of strategic efforts that are designed to increase the number and percent of students who are graduating from high school with a diploma. The information we get to share this year is really good news. Graduation rates statewide have been rising in 10 of the last 12 years. The 2023 graduation rates increased in 17 of the 17 categories over the rates in 2022, and 13 of 17 categories had higher graduation rates in 2023 than pre-pandemic. And Dr. Chapman is going to share those details.
Thank you, Dr. Harmala, and good morning, board. The opening series of data slides will focus on 4-, 5-, and 6-year graduation rates over the last decade. You can see here that there are percentage point increases of 4.8, 4.3, and 5.1 for the 4-, 5-, and 6-year graduation rates, respectively. The trends are a bit more complicated when you look at 5 or 4 and 1 year changes, which we will share now. Similar to the previous slide, graduation rates have increased for the last 4 years. The rate of increase was not as high as the 10-year trend due to adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the last year, we see a marginal increase for the 4-year and 5-year rates, with a slight decrease for the 6-year, which is specifically attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. The next several slides will share our data stories specific to student groups by ethnicity, beginning with Black, African Americans. It is important to also note that these series of slides share the 4-year trend from 2019 to 2023 as an intentional means of analyzing rates at the onset of and conclusion of the COVID-19 pandemic. All 3 cohorts show significant increase over the last 10 years. The 4-year trend, while marginal, yields pre-pandemic rates for all 3 cohorts. Within the past year, the 4- and 5-year cohorts show increase as well. The 6-year cohort shows a slight decrease as they continue to strive to complete graduation requirements. Similarly, Asian students have increased the past 10 years for all 3 cohorts. The 4-year trend also yields pre-pandemic rates. A significant milestone for this group is the tenacious efforts of the 6-year cohorts at 90% or above over the past decade. Hispanic or Latino students have near double-digit increases over the past decade for the 4- and 5-year cohorts, with the 6-year cohort having a double-digit increase of an 11.0 percentage points change since 2013. While smitten by COVID-19 during the 2021 school year, this group has been tenacious and yields increase for the 4-year trend for all cohorts as well. The one-year change shows an earnest effort based on student tenacity and LEA support. The Native American or Alaska Native, as identified by Census Bureau count, shows increase over the past decade as well. The 4-year and 1-year percentage point change across all 3 cohorts yields increase with a slight decline for the 6-year in 2023. The rate of increase here is not as high due to stagnant or decreased enrollment by nearly 20% since 2015-16, and this is data that we did share in our update on graduation rates in 2023. As shared for the previous groups, the 4-year trend yields rates that are higher than outcomes pre-pandemic. Similar to the previous slide of the Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander student group has fluctuated for 12th grade students in particular over the past decade with increases for all 3 cohorts. The most significant being a near 20 percentage point change for the 6-year cohort. The 4-year cohort for this group is the most adversely affected with a decline for all 3. The 4-year cohort shows a decline over the past year and speaks to the students who need continuous support due to the adversity experienced by COVID-19. Through supports and services both at the state and local level, the 1-year percentage point change for the 4 and 6 years yield increases as noted here on the slide. For 2 or more races, we see increases for all 3 cohorts, 4, 5, and 6 year over the past decade. Similar to several other groups shared, there was a slight dip for the 4-year cohort due to the pandemic. Besides the 6-year cohort, the 1-year percentage point rate increased from 21-22 to 22-23. White students increased over the past decade as well, with a slight dip during the first year of the pandemic. Besides a slight decrease for the 6-year cohort over the past year, white students have yielded increase for the 10-year, 4-year, and 1-year trend rates across all 3 cohorts. Relative to gender, both male and female rates increased over the past decade. Males, however, show more than double 10-year percentage point increase in comparison to females for the 4-year cohort. Research and reports over the past 4 years show that females were more adversely affected by the pandemic than males. As such, you will notice that both the 4-year and 1-year percentage point change for females is either a slight decline or less of an increase in comparison to their male counterparts. English learners show increase over the past 10 years with a near double digit for the 4-year cohort. The 1-year increase, while minimal and confirms the adversity caused by the pandemic for this group, still yields what now exceeds pre-pandemic outcomes for the 4-year percentage point rates. Economically disadvantaged students have increased graduation rates over the past decade for all 3 cohorts as well. The 1-year shows the intentional effort to bounce back from the pandemic with increases for the 4-year and 5-year cohort. The not economically disadvantaged student group, or those of families or caregivers with greater financial means, show similar 1-year increases, but also significantly show a near 20-point difference in the percentage of students who graduate in either 4, 5, and 6-year cohorts. For youth experiencing foster care, we are sharing the 4-year and 1-year trend data. While the rate of graduation is significantly lower than their peers, youth experiencing foster care show increases of 2.7 and 0.2 percentage point changes for the 1-year and four-year cohort, respectively. Efforts to provide greater support have brought positive change for students experiencing foster care of late, and the department continues to be intentional on providing equitable services that provides for opportunities to graduate these students so that they will have viable outcomes for their futures. Students experiencing homelessness show rates of increase over the past decade for the 4 and 5-year cohorts. The 4-year trend rates show decline for all 3 cohorts. This group was greatly affected by COVID-19 and is still forging through access and equitable servicing as it relates to homeless families. While the 1-year rates for the 4 and 5-year show increase, the overall observation here is that extensive intentional efforts are needed to grow the rates for this group. For the past decade, students with disabilities have an increased graduation rate for all 3 cohorts. For both students with disabilities and students without, the 1-year percentage change for the 4-year and 5-year cohorts show an increase and a slight decrease for the 6-year, which for all categories are attributed to learning and outcomes impacted by COVID-19. And so now, we highlight and emphasize today that 13 of 17 categories of students had 4-year graduation rates in 2023 that were higher than in 2019 pre-pandemic. The data also shows increases over the past 4 years, although significantly impacted by COVID-19 in 2021. The rates within the last year continue to show increase with some categories or several categories, and the 6-year cohort in particular needing more intentional supports to complete the graduation requirements. In summary, we have experienced rising graduation rates 10 of the last 12 years. Comparing 22 and 2023, it is expressly noted that 17 of 17 categories increased, 13 of which were higher than pre-pandemic rates. There are sizable differences in certain groups which will require continuous effort and attention by local and intermediate school districts, MDE, and the state legislature. And now, after taking a close look at the data, we will share the efforts in place that have contributed to the increase of graduation rates for Michigan. We will begin with the effort EWIMS, or Early Warning Intervention and Monitoring Systems. Nearly 4 years ago, the Office of Educational Supports, in partnership with the former Institute for Research, technical assistant, consultant, and staff of our MyMTTS, began to implement EWIMS. This 7-step process, which is both research and evidence-based, is data-driven and individualized to assist in the facilitation of making decisions about the needed supports and interventions to help students get back on track and succeed for graduation. In addition to providing numerous universal training resources on the MDE EWIMS webpage, MDE has developed an EWIMS implementation support network to provide training and support to schools and districts around the state. Over 26 ISDs have one or more individuals trained on the EWIMS process. Also, MDE has to date 10 state-certified EWIMS trainer coaches who are working with schools and districts around the state. Over 300 individuals have completed 8 hours of EWIMS training. From rural to urban and suburban districts, this system has made great gains in capturing the opportunity to help students reset and focus with confidence on meeting the Michigan Merit Curriculum graduation requirements. Dr. Harmala will now share an additional effort. Dr. Harmala?
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. An important effort that has had a positive impact on our graduation rates is the personal curriculum. The personal curriculum is a tool for modifying the Michigan Merit Curriculum by individualizing graduation requirements for students. The Office of Educational Supports works in partnership with the Office of Special Education to ensure that the personal curriculum is understood as a tool that increases graduation rates. The department has provided numerous trainings to ISDs, local districts, and outside agencies to support understanding and use of the personal curriculum. Over the last 2 years, they've provided 95 trainings to ISDs, 140 trainings to local school districts, and 46 trainings to outside agencies. The personal curriculum is available for every student as needed. While the personal curriculum is available to any student, students with disabilities have more flexibility in the modifications that can be made to the merit curriculum. Specifically, any of the merit curriculum credits can be removed for those students. Personal curriculum teams must be thoughtful and cognizant when developing a personal curriculum for a student with a disability. Significant consideration must be given to the student's post-secondary goals, meaning the personal curriculum must align with the student's educational development plan, or EDP, and that student's individualized education program, or their IEP. Modifications should be in the area of the student's disability or identified needs. Failure to align these documents may result in modifications that limit a student's ability to achieve their post-secondary goals. The alignment involves looking at the student's career goals in their EDP and their post-secondary goals and activities in the transition plan of their IEP to determine if those goals can be reached with the modification being proposed in a personal curriculum. For example, educators, the student, and the parents might say, if a student wants to be a carpenter, for example, and they intend to attend a trade school, what impact would there be on the student achieving that goal if the Michigan Merit Curriculum Algebra 2 course were eliminated from that student's course of study? So those things need to be thought about for each student. We have 4 personal curriculum options. Type 1, 2, and 4 are general education modifications. The first one allows students to earn additional credits in core subject areas by waiving a credit in a non-core. So for example, if I have a heavy focus or interest in science fields, I might add a science and drop an elective. The second one modifies the mathematics credits for students who do not require the highest level of math to meet their post-school goals. The example I just provided might be true for a student who does not have a disability as well as a student who does. And the fourth example, modifying the Michigan Merit Curriculum for students who transfer from out of state or out of country, knowing that it might be difficult for them to achieve the full high school credit requirements. However, they do have to have completed 2 years of high school prior to the transfer for a personal curriculum to be set up for that student. The third option there is for students with an IEP. That means they have a disability. And for them, you can have credit removal or adjustments that are, again, aligned with their EDP, Educational Development Plan, and their personal goals in their individual education program. So we must align those things to have the flexibility for students with disabilities. Our personal curriculum is in great use. It's increased over recent years by nearly 33% from 2017-18. You can see on the slide that 9,656 students were using the personal curriculum in 2017-18. Now we have 12,840 students. I think you're a slide ahead of me. Oh, we are missing a slide. Do you have the slide in your packet maybe, and you can look at the numbers? You have it. Very good. Thank you. 12,840 students using the personal curriculum in 2022-23. In addition, if you look at the graduated rate, those who graduated that had a personal curriculum, the rates are approximately 2/3 of all students who use a personal curriculum are also graduating. And we can't say that they wouldn't have graduated without it, but we can say it is helping students to graduate. Okay, go ahead to that next slide. Thank you. This particular table shows how the types of 4 personal curriculum credits are adjusted. The number of credit modifications is higher than the total number of personal curricula because one personal curriculum might include multiple credit modifications for a single student. So a student who has a personal curriculum might have a math credit and a science credit modification. It's one personal curriculum, but it counts for 2 of the modifications. What we notice is that the modifications increase as students approach their 12th grade year. Enrichments make up the largest percent of the modifications, followed by mathematics, for students with and those without disabilities, and then modifications for students with IEPs in credits other than mathematics. Students with IEPs also have the highest number of modifications in 9th and 10th grade, and those happen to be outside of the area of mathematics. These modifications are not necessarily good or bad. Rather, they reveal where the modifications are made in regards to course credits and grade levels for a student aligned with their goals for post-secondary education or their future. Okay. I think that's the one we just did. Thank you. It's important and necessary to ensure that our students, our families, our teachers, our counselors, our administrators all understand the flexibilities that they have within the personal curriculum. They also need to know why we continue to promote that personal curriculum as a strategy to increase education or graduation rates, rather. The goal of the personal curriculum is to enhance the relevance of the high school experience aligned with a student's post-school goals. We also have a couple of other efforts that are supportive of graduation for students. We have 2 guidance documents that we provide to the field. The first is the high school graduation guidance document released in the fall of 2022. That particular guidance document helps districts to understand the strategies, the evidence-based strategies that support students in finishing school, and it reveals the factors that interfere with high school graduation and provides them ways in which they might address those, specifically making sure we're intervening for students who have high rates of absenteeism, academic enrichments and tutorial supports, extracurricular engagement opportunities that support our students, and mentoring and support for students to stay in school. We just released in February the middle school guidance document. We must always start early with ensuring our students are successful. So this particular guidance document focuses on grades 6 through 8 and their experience and the need for intentionality in planning the transition from middle school to high school. The personalization of learning is key for these students in supporting their sense of belonging and connectedness to the school. And research validates that a climate and culture within the middle school setting that promotes engagement in learning ultimately leads to high school graduation. Of course, attending school matters as well, and having support through mentoring and participation in out-of-school services enhances the student's likelihood of success. The final slide depicts efforts to increase graduation rates through numerous activities that you'll hear about actually in a future board meeting when we address Goal 4. But those efforts include student participation in career and technical education, early middle college, dual enrollment, international baccalaureate programs, and advanced placement. All of these make the high school experience more aligned to the students' needs and interests and increase their graduation rates. You'll hear again more about those at a future board meeting. And Dr. Chapman, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamla. During the August 2023 State Board of Education meeting, the Post-Graduation Opportunities Information Packet was presented and put into place by Public Act 88 of 2022. The Michigan Department of Education was directed to develop and make available to all school districts, intermediate school districts, public school academies, and non-public schools informational packets that address three broad areas, including occupations and public service opportunities, advanced educational opportunities during high school, and educational opportunities after high school. The packet that MD updates has to be updated annually and provided to the entities just shared with you. This packet is specific to grades 8 through 12. Through a collaboration with the Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, or LEO, the tool Pathfinder was enhanced to meet the requirements of the law. The MDE team presented on the informational packet available through Pathfinder from July 2023 through January 2024 and continues to share the information with Michigan schools. Exposure and use of the online packet has more than quadrupled, as you can see here on the slide, in a very short period of time. So our efforts definitely have been recognized and are being utilized by the field and the constituents that the statute was recommended and approved for. In summary, we appreciate the opportunity to update you on the data and efforts associated with the graduation rates of our students in the state of Michigan. In closing, we emphasize the increase in four-year graduation rates in 17 of 17 categories in 2023 over 2022. Additionally, the increase in four-year graduation rates in 13 of 17 categories in 2023 over 2019, noted as pre-pandemic. As we have shared, state and local efforts continue to expand with intentional family engagement initiatives, school-level intervention, MDE guidance documents, and Michigan Merit curriculum flexibilities. We appreciate the opportunity to update you again on this data and efforts, and we'd be happy to address any questions at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman, Dr. Harmala. Board members, questions or comments? Ms. Lipton.
Thank you so much. This is really, really positive news. I know that I think sometimes those of us that have been in the education space for a long time are always braced for, the bad news, what have you, but I really think that there's also value in celebrating achievements, and this is really, I don't know about everyone else, I'm personally really excited by this, and I think that we should take a moment to appreciate what these numbers really mean. So thank you for uplifting the positivity in the data. I just want to focus on just a few specific aspects of the presentation. Going to slide 24. I just want to uplift the discussion regarding the EWIMS coaches. From my vantage point, particularly using the coaching model for post-secondary success programs that are used in the Promise Zones, I really can't overstate how important that coaching model is, and I just want to uplift and thank the department for really making use of that. In your opinion, if we had more of that, in a perfect world, do you think that that's an important component of the increased high school graduation rates that we're seeing?
We do believe that, yes, Ms. Lipton. And we have consultants within the department that have been aggressively sharing what those outcomes can be through the use of the coaching model, coupling it with the EWIMS framework. And so many, many more are coming on board.
I know it's always an issue of capacity and funding, but to me, I think that there's no better use of dollars than in proven models that work, coaching models. So thank you for uplifting that. In terms of the personal curriculum, I'm also a big fan of that. I think that the biggest challenge is always making sure that students and families are aware. People don't know what they don't know. And so I think, again, the use of coaches, training, appropriate use of the personal curriculum, those are all really, really important. And I think that, again, my sense, if you go to slide 28, I'm observing from 2017 all the way to 2023, there does seem to be a pretty strong correlation between knowledge of, appropriate use of the personal curriculum, and rising graduation rates. So I think, am I reading that correctly?
Certainly knowledge of, right? And this is the slide that is not there, but you have it in your packet. Rising from 9,656 in 2017 to 12,840 in 2022-23. So you see that rise. You see it as a percentage of the student population in the middle column. That's the percentage of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders combined. And then you see the increase in numbers of students who graduated. But percentage-wise of those using the PC, it's been hovering around 2/3 graduating. So more are using it. About the same percentage of that student body are graduating. There was a blip in the middle, 2019-20, where 72% of those users graduated. But you can't graduate with it if you don't know it exists and use it.
So. Right, and again, I just want to uplift the notion of the coaching model. It's anecdotally what we're seeing, at least in the promise zones, which are, I think, a test case of some of our most economically distressed school districts. I think that oftentimes it's knowledge of the tool, but also appropriate use of the tool by skilled professionals, trained professionals, and people that have been educated in the use of it, because it really does, at least anecdotally, what we're seeing, it really does make a difference in terms of how a student views their high school journey as well as their post-secondary journey. So I think that that's really important. I do want to make just sort of a statement that I do believe that guidance counselors, I think teachers certainly need to be trained in the use of the personal curriculum, but I really think that the point of entry for a lot of students in terms of navigating through high school and post-secondary really is that guidance counselor. And I just want to uplift the fact that best practices tell us that the ratio should be about 1 to 250. And in Michigan, we're at about 1 to over 1,000. So in your professional opinion, do you think that having more trained guidance counselors in those school settings can help increase the use of the personal curriculum, and that would have a result in a higher graduation rate. And again, perhaps even a more successful post-secondary journey, if you will.
I might expand it a little bit to say the more knowledge any high school and, quite frankly, middle school educator has of both the Michigan Merit Curriculum and the personal curriculum as a tool, the more use we would have. Certainly, if you have a counselor who understands it and is dedicated to it and can help to implement for every student, that's great, but it doesn't have to just be a counselor. It can be the personal curriculum team, and as long as they have knowledge of the curriculum, the merit curriculum itself, and the tool of the personal curriculum, and support families and students in knowing what it is too. That's very helpful.
I really like that that point regarding the team, because I think that the team approach, I just want to sort of uplift that the journey through high school and then at least becoming aware of the post-secondary options and journeys, it does require a lot of intentional work. It's just not something that's just knowledge that's necessarily apparent to everyone, particularly people that don't have exposure to that through family or through community, what have you. And so it is intentional work. It's labor-intensive work. And it does require, I think, trained people to do it. And we have a shortage of that in this state, and in my own personal opinion. And I do think that you're bringing this to the forefront. I appreciate that, and thank you for uplifting these issues.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Mr. Bullock?
Following Member Lipton's uplift, I have a question of curiosity. As we use these tools, these resources, or the availability of them to be used, and in a perfect world, I know it's funding and human capital capacity. Do we have a breakdown of how many of these, the EWIMs or the PC coaches are in by district? So I'd like to know, like, because I really want to know about Detroit, but there are other districts I do. Just want to know, like, I saw the breakdown. There's only 30 coaches according to the slide. I'm like, where is everybody else? So they can't be everywhere. So I just wanted to know, do we have a breakdown? Not necessarily at the table, but you can email or let the board know so I can kind of follow.
We can provide that data, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bullock. Any other questions by board members? Dr. Robinson?
You mentioned personal curriculum team. Who are the members of that on a usual basis in a school?
So it depends on the student. So if you have a student with a disability, you have to include a member of the IEP team because the personal curriculum has to align with that. You would typically have a high school counselor. You may have a teacher included in that because you want to understand the personal curriculum. Each school can set that up differently. It's not a mandated team, but it certainly should include the parent and the student as well.
So just as with the IEP team, it's the coordinator of special ed or someone like that is kind of the chief worrier.
They're not for students with disabilities relative to personal curriculum. You still have people within the school who understand that it's a tool, but you have to include alignment with the IEP. So it's not necessarily the charge of the special educator.
No, my point was that on the IEP team.
Oh, sure.
The special education professionals tend to take the lead on those, right?
Yes.
And so I think Ellen's point is still really powerful in terms of the personal curriculum team. We have other roles, other people that play on these committees, but it's really the counselors who are taking the lead role, and we are under-counseled. Right? We need more counselors, and if we had more counselors, then the awareness and the implementation are going to follow. So I just want to join in your statement I think you were making a statement or at least a question for more counselors in the state, in our schools to meet the needs of students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Any other board members? Mr. McMillan?
I'm aware of the time, so I'll try to just kind of rattle through these and you can reply or not. But first of all, CTE and alternative high schools, those would be examples where personal curriculum is used. Is that true?
Well, you could use them there.
It's not
It's not
often used?
I'd have to look at the numbers to know if it's more common. You
Okay.
could certainly use them there, but I wouldn't be prepared to say just because you're a student in a CTE program, you have a personal curriculum.
Okay,
I'm
I
not
would just think
prepared
that
yet to
they're-
say that.
They're moving things around in order to have the things like CTE and, I just thought there, okay.
That might be true, but we can find out for you, and I think Dr. Kroll might be behind me, but I don't
Okay.
know if she knows that off the top of her head.
I really like the personal curriculum as well. I do think a couple things that might come up is that people would say, oh, you're lowering the bar, or, oh, I wish they would have pushed me, or somebody would say, I'm glad they pushed me to things I didn't necessarily want, but, because now I'm into something but I think those are a couple that I could see some people saying there's a concern, but I think that the benefits greatly outweigh it. Now, we are talking about just high school, right? I would not want to, I think that there's a lot of development pre-high school that we don't need to be doing a lot, well, I don't know. I always opposed any kind of expansion of graduation credits. I think we should have a few basics, some, certain level of math and English and maybe science, but really, as Young Zhao said, we should be measuring the joy with which kids come to school versus how quickly they want to get out of school every day. That would be a great measurement as opposed to all the high stakes testing. And so I do think that there does need to be a more focus on what is it that the student really enjoys and will get them to want to be there and to learn. And so I think that's good. But, okay, finally, I guess they're probably, though, I'm always about incentives and where are they and where are the disincentives. There's probably a strong disincentive for schools to push, and maybe I'm wrong, to push personal curriculum because it just makes things more difficult. It's easier. I mean, doesn't it make it more difficult to know, class size and which teachers we need? And I mean, if everybody was doing personal curriculum, and every year it changes, who knows what you need, So I think that the incentive is to not push this because there's only 2 or 3% that are using it. And I think it could be 80 or 90 if, to some degree that a lot of students, or at least certainly a lot would. But I think, isn't there disincentives to really pushing this? They may say, oh yeah, we really want to personalize this for the student, but really it would make the administrator's job significantly more difficult. And so, is there a tension there? Or is there ways to break that tension and help reduce it? Or am I wrong in my thinking, perhaps?
I would look at it as our goal as educators is to help students graduate with a diploma that means something, and a personal curriculum is a tool to do that. So not looking at how do we get them out of things or how do we avoid doing them, but how do we help students to graduate? And this is a tool that helps us to do that.
But is it to help them graduate enjoying what they do, or just to graduate whether they enjoy it or not?
Remember, the goal of a personal curriculum is tied to the student's personal out-of-school goals, so trying to align those elements for the student.
I mean, that's why I would argue that maybe it could be 50, it'd be significantly higher than 3%. Maybe people don't know about it, but I also think, is there a disincentive? What if 60% chose personal curriculum? Would that make things more difficult for administrators to figure out how to hire and class sizes and capacity and all that? Would it make it more difficult?
Yes, it would. If we increased the number of children on personal curriculum by 20-fold, it would have an impact on workload.
Okay.
Yes, there's no doubt.
Okay.
Please.
What does a personal curriculum look like? Is it more like a project-based
It could be.
curriculum?
What I think we ought to do, because this is a small portion of a graduation rate presentation, I think we ought to do a presentation to the board on personal curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would uplift the personal curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's to Ms. Lipton's point, Mr. McMillan's point, Ms. Tilley's point. There's a lot of there. And this is a public service so that people know more about the personal curriculum and can avail themselves more likely to the personal curriculum. So we'd like to share in greater detail with you. Yeah.
And the EWIMS.
Pardon me?
And the EWIMS.
And EWIMS as well. That's a good point, because EWIMS is really fledgling. Personal curriculum is a little bit older than is EWIMS. But both are of relatively recent vintage. Both don't go back, and neither go back decades. They're relatively of recent vintage. What we've tried to do recently with personal curriculum is crank up those numbers, because we really do think that there's a tremendous value. It's not so much a lowering of the standard, it's a different standard for different children with different capacities and different strengths, really.
Thank you.
Okay. You got-
I like a more project-based, personalized approach, because I feel like when the students get a chance to be a part of their education, they will enjoy it more. You know, they get a chance to choose and direct along with the leadership from the teacher. And I think that would be tremendously helpful.
We see that in CTE, we see it in robotics, we see it in a number of fields. You're absolutely right. Thank you. Ms. Snyder.
I know you said that you could look at the percentage of students currently engaged in personal curriculum and CTE. I think that would be helpful too, because my experience with personal curriculum is people who engage in both. It's because of it that they can pursue CTE, meaning then therefore they should be encouraged to pursue CTE almost alongside it, oftentimes, not all the time, but. So if you could just share that with us the next time.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Board members, any other reflections? Presenters, graduation rates up in 17 of 17 categories, 13 greater than pre-pandemic numbers. I do think what Ms. Lipton said at the beginning of the Q&A bears re-mentioning. Sometimes it's time to just pause and to reflect upon that positive, particularly 4 years after the beginning of COVID in the state of Michigan. Thank you very much for your presentation. Board, it is 11:29. The next item on today's agenda is a presentation on literacy efforts during March is Reading Month, and more specifically about the importance of and ways to implement diverse classroom libraries. We welcome our presenters, Dr. Delsa Chapman, back by popular demand, Dr. Renee Garcia, Director of the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dr. Jen Saylor, the Assistant Director of Office of Educational Supports, Ms. Dory Lako, Superintendent in East Lansing Public Schools, Dr. Kelvin Butts, Superintendent in Benton Harbor Area Schools, and Theo Kerhulis, Superintendent in Port Huron Area School District. As our presenters come to the table, I'd like to take a moment to introduce another new staff member, Denisha Rawls-Smith. Denisha is the manager of the Literacy Unit in the Office of Educational Supports. We are excited to have her join the team. Welcome, Denisha. Denisha, could you, there you go, there you go. Thank you so much. This is an informational presentation. No board action is required. Presenters, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Rice, and good morning again, Board. We are excited to come before you today to share efforts and highlights as we celebrate March is Reading Month. We have several guests with us that will be sharing their efforts that are occurring out in the field, and we're so happy about that today. Our sharing today will include the how and why of literacy. We will also be intentional on sharing MDE March is Reading Month initiatives, along with diversity in literature activities and diverse classroom libraries. As we know, Michigan's Top 10 Strategic Education Plan Goal 2 aims to increase early literacy achievement. With that as our foundation, we will begin with the how and why of literacy. Dr. Saylor?
Thank you, Dr. Chapman, and good morning, board members. Dr. Rice, During our presentation in September, we provided an overview of programs and initiatives implemented over the past few years and aligned our efforts to improve early literacy achievement through the lens of both the how and the why of literacy teaching and learning throughout the state, as Dr. Kaplan mentioned. This both and approach to literacy instruction speaks to two pillars necessary in supporting and moving forward the literacy achievement of our students, while also fostering a love of reading, which drives success in learning. As a reminder, each approach is equally important. The how speaks to the research and evidence-based approaches to literacy instruction that serve as building blocks for students to learn to read and provide the foundation for reading to learn. The why speaks to those literacy learning experiences that encourage students' joy and motivation to read, that will encourage each to express their creativity, have a voice in their own learning, and feel connected to their learning experiences. Reading to learn relies on the foundational skills students build when learning to read. As we've also previously shared, Scarborough's reading rope is a visual example of how all the components of literacy instruction are equally important to develop skilled reading. The bottom of the rope includes word recognition skills necessary to learn to read. The top of the rope emphasizes reading to learn skills that build comprehension and depth of knowledge. When braided together through research-based instructional practices and engaging and motivational reading opportunities that build students' understanding, both strands of the rope lead to a lifelong love of reading. While both the how and the why are critically important, and in celebration of March's Reading Month, our updates today will focus on current initiatives that lean into the why of literacy. A strong focus on the why means students will have more opportunities to be engaged and motivated by reading about a wide range of subjects. One child may be excited by science, another by history, and a third by reading a story in which they feel connected through identity or experience. Ensuring access to books that reflect students' identities as well as their interests and curiosities will ultimately lead to joyful reading experiences. Efforts today we will highlight include Teaching Black History Lessons from Educators, the 2024 Diversity in Literature Symposium, the Department of Education Guest Readers Initiative, Michigan Reads School Celebration Contest, and Educators' Perspectives, Diverse Classroom Libraries throughout Michigan. Setting the stage for March's Reading Month is the celebration of Black history throughout the month of February, which align literacy efforts across grade levels and differentiated content areas. This collection of weekly calendars, entitled Teaching Black History, Lessons from Educators, included educators' why for teaching Black history and lesson descriptions and links to resources to be used in February or any other time of the year that were curated and shared publicly with educators throughout the state. We appreciate the educators who submitted lessons, including Ms. Jackson, whose idea you see here was highlighted to kick off Black History Month. To view and explore the calendars, please visit the MDE Michigan Celebrates Black History Month website. Continuing our focus on students, families, communities, and in collaboration with the MyMTSSTA Center, the department hosted an in-person literacy event for educators and administrators just last week on March 7th, titled the MDE Diversity in Literature Symposium, The How and Why of Literacy. Opening with a keynote from Dr. Anita Archer, the conference featured a host of national presenters that included Nandi Comer, Michigan's Poet Laureate, Angela Joy, an award-winning children's book author, and closed with an endnote from Ifa Baeza, acclaimed playwright and author. In addition to multiple nationally renowned presenters, the symposium included 24 presenters who focused on sessions on both the how and the why of literacy and aligned topics to Dr. Goldie Muhammad's 5 literary pursuits, which serve as a foundation to literacy instruction and are featured on the screen. A highlight of the symposium featured Michigan's brilliant young people who shared samples of poetry they wrote during workshops with Michigan's Poet Laureate, Nandi Comer, with a captive standing room audience in the main ballroom. Following this session, Michigan's rising stars, our students, provided attendees with insights about their literary interests, motivation for writing, and advice to educators during an afternoon breakout session. To honor educator voices, participants in the Diversity in Literature Symposium were celebrated in 2 ways throughout the event. First, educators who completed letters training had the option to have their names featured in a slideshow that played throughout the day. The literacy unit had an overwhelming response to this initiative, with 792 educators honored. Because diverse literature provides opportunities for readers to see themselves represented, learn about others, and envision possible future selves in text, and to highlight the importance of diverse literature, the Michigan Department of Education also asked participants to share experiences with diverse texts that have impacted their life or the lives of students. Submissions were also compiled into a slideshow that scrolled on the main ballroom big screens. Over the course of the past year, the MDE Literacy Unit and the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, with the support of colleagues and communities across the state, has developed a model classroom library to share with schools, districts, and ISDs. The goal of this traveling library is to provide sample text and organization ideas for educators to visualize diverse classroom libraries for students in their communities. To share the request for a visit from the MDE Diverse Classroom Library with an educator, school, or district, please scan the QR code on the lower right-hand corner of the screen. And just a note of preparation, the upcoming slides will feature different QR codes for access to various initiatives. In addition to the breadth and depth of learning opportunities offered, we're equally interested in the feedback that over 600 attendees provided about the symposium. Overall, participants rated quality, usefulness, and relevance as high across all sessions, highlighting that sessions were clear, organized, and directly related to school and classroom implementation. Additionally, the session generated over 243 diverse book recommendations, and most attendees reported their attendance was a priority of their organization, which were represented by regions throughout the state. Anecdotally, educators shared insights about presentation topics and delivery, as represented by the quotes that are in the blue column on the screen. And this also continues to inform our planning for next year's symposium. Extending beyond the 2024 Diversity and Literature Symposium and throughout the month of March, MDE has invited educators to take part in 2 interactive literacy initiatives. In the first one, Michigan schools have an opportunity to share March's Reading Month plans and celebrations by completing the Michigan Reads Survey. MDE will compile responses and organize them into a collaborative resource that will be shared with educators throughout Michigan. All submissions will also be entered into a drawing to receive special recognition and a keepsake to commemorate the event. Ideas entered will also be compiled and shared throughout Michigan to create a statewide resource repository for future events. To access or share the survey with educators to enter their school-wide celebration, noting that the call for entries closes this Friday, March 15th, please follow the QR code on this slide. The second initiative provides opportunities for Michigan educators to invite a guest reader from the Michigan Department of Education to visit their school. To request a guest reader to visit schools, educators have been asked to complete the Michigan Guest Reader Survey, after which an MDE staff member will reach out to finalize the details of the visit. Because the MDE looks forward to sharing a love of literacy all year round, visits will take place during the remainder of this school year and into the 24-25 school year. To access or share the survey with educators, to request a guest reader from MDE, also noting that that survey closes this coming Friday, please scan the QR code on the left side of the slide. And we would also love to invite board members to join MDE staff as guest readers. If you are interested in becoming a guest reader, please scan the QR code on the right side of the screen. And to continue the conversation about our why of literacy, I'd like to invite Dr. Garcia to talk more about our literacy efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Saylor. Good morning, Dr. Rice and board members. As Dr. Saylor shared, our literacy efforts work to balance the technical aspects of literacy, the how of literacy, with the motivational aspects of the why of literacy. The why of literacy speaks to those literacy learning experiences that encourage students' joy, motivation, and engagement. To become proficient readers, practice is needed. The more practice, the more fluent students become with the skill of word reading. The more fluent they become, the more they read and encounter new vocabulary words and new content. Students bring this fluency, vocabulary, and background knowledge to the next book they read, and this practice builds to make stronger readers. All this takes time, and we have to face it, there's a lot of competition for students' time and attention, which means educators need to be really good at helping students find books that engage and motivate them to want to spend their time reading. The Diverse Classroom Libraries effort aims to help students have access to books that interest and engage them so they are more motivated to practice the skills necessary to become better readers. 1 year ago, in March of 2023, MDE released guidance on diverse classroom libraries. The guidance is based in part on the work of Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, who is quoted on this slide as saying, literature transforms human experience and reflects it back to us. And in that reflection, we can see our own lives and experiences as part of a larger human experience. Reading, then, becomes a means of self-affirmation, and readers often seek their mirrors in books. This analogy of books as mirrors where students can see themselves, windows where they can learn about others, and sliding glass doors which open to new learning is a foundational idea of the Diverse Classroom Libraries guidance. On this slide, you see an image of the Diverse Classroom Library guidance. The full document can be accessed with this QR code, or if you like, we do have hard copies available. The guidance document provides educators with information and reflective question prompts to be used as they work to build classroom libraries that have a selection of books that motivate and engage their students to practice reading. When we think of Dr. Bishop's analogy of books as mirrors and windows, it's important to note that a single book can serve as a mirror for one student while serving as a window for another student. This is an important concept as districts work to provide diverse classroom libraries that offer books that not only connect their students to topics that interest them, but provide accurate representation to honor and celebrate identities. Diverse classroom libraries are one method for educators to support Michigan's 1.4 million students to be better prepared to navigate their increasingly and richly diverse world. On this slide is a quote from Malala. This quote, along with others on upcoming slides, are examples of quotes that can be found within the Diverse Classroom Library guidance document. They're intended to capture interest and give a taste of some diverse texts. The guidance document is organized around 3 guiding questions, as seen here. Why are diverse classroom libraries important? What should be included in diverse classroom libraries? And how can educators engage students in lifelong literacy learning through diverse classroom libraries? In response to the first question, why are diverse classroom libraries important? The guidance encourages educators to foster motivation and engagement for all learners to improve literacy achievement. Motivation and engagement increases when students engage with educational materials that positively reflect learners' identities, lived experiences, and capture their interests. Through providing access to diverse reading material, educators have the opportunity to impact learning by developing reading skills, a sense of identity, intellectualism, criticality, and joy among learners in their classroom. To promote inclusive, engaging, motivating, and affirming experiences that support a lifelong love of reading for all students, several other factors are equally important for educators to consider. The guidance document provides questions to encourage educators to reflect on how to encourage student perspectives, foster inclusive partnerships with families, caregivers, and community members, and to consider how their own experiences influence their understanding of the world and their book selections. In response to what should be included in classroom libraries, it's important to note that building a diverse classroom library is an organic, evolving, and ongoing process that requires many perspectives to ensure reading materials reflect students' interests, identities, and goals. To support this process, the Diverse Classroom Libraries guidance provides reflection questions, tools, and resources that help when evaluating current materials, selecting new materials, and organizing classroom libraries. Once the first 2 questions are answered, the guidance document addresses how educators can engage students with diverse classroom libraries. Designing learning around diverse texts takes time and dedication with intentionality. Educators can ultimately make learning more engaging by creating purpose and connection to learners' authentic experiences and interests. Building and encouraging meaningful, trusting, and supportive relationships can open doors to learning opportunities that otherwise would not present themselves, as learners use diverse reading materials to collaborate with others. Additionally, inclusive, engaging, and motivating classrooms are a must for creating optimal learning environments where learners feel that they belong and that their voices, goals, and dreams are heard. And finally, instructional strategies such as choice, questioning, and direct and explicit instruction promote engagement, belonging, and equity, all critical to supporting lifelong literacy learning for all students. With us today are 3 district superintendents who have leaned into the work of creating opportunities for students to see themselves and learn about others through the books in their classrooms. They will each share a short overview of how their individual districts has approached this work. I personally want to thank them for being here. So Superintendent Lako, to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Dory Lako, Superintendent with East Lansing Public Schools. I want to start also by acknowledging 2 of my co-collaborators and leaders of this initiative in the district. Glenn Mitchum, our Assistant Superintendent, is with us today, and Claudia Burton, our Director of Equity and Social Justice, is also here. So while I'm doing the sharing, this initiative is really a reflection of the work put in by many people on our team and not just myself. And we started our project about 3 years ago when we recognized our foundation in the district, the East Lansing Educational Foundation, was receiving many grants year after year from individual classroom teachers to provide funds to diversify their classroom libraries. And what we were finding is some classroom libraries were growing and expanding while others were not. And we know that we have diverse students in every classroom and wanted to provide every student the opportunity to see themselves represented in the classroom library materials, and also to see authors and see themselves as authors. So not just the content of the book, but who's writing these books and novels and picture books. So we went to our foundation and proposed the idea of taking those funds that they typically would set aside and grant individual classroom materials and looking at it as a holistic project for the entire district. We started at elementary school, which is in our district 6 buildings, and we also expanded it to our special areas so that our music teachers could pick out books, and our art teachers, our counselors and social workers, our interventionists, so everybody in the building who sees students had access to participating in this. And when we look at our why, we look at our ELPS mission statement around nurturing each child. We really think it's important. We look at that as the social emotional learning, the mental health of our students, and know that if our students feel included, feel seen and valued in their classroom, that supports their mental health, well-being, and sense of belonging. Educating all students is the second part of our mission statement. That's where all the teaching and learning goals and activities take place, which providing access to high-quality literature, where students see themselves. We think that will engage them and help them learn better. And our last part of our mission statement, building world citizens, is all the work we do on creating an inclusive and belonging environment for all of our students and our staff. So that's really the why behind our project. We have some really key partners I want to mention. First of all, our East Lansing Educational Foundation helped provide funds for this, and not just on year 1, but on an ongoing basis, because we're expanding beyond just our classroom libraries now, which I'll share a little piece of that when on the next slide. We also purchased all of our books from Black individual-owned bookstores. So our partners of Socialite Society Bookstore and Detroit Book City Bookstore, those were the 2 bookstores that we purchased all of our, or almost all of our books from, whatever they could get for us. So we wanted to make sure all of these funds were also going to individuals, Black-owned bookstores. We had a district diverse books committee that did a lot of book review, put together lists. They put together these awesome slides for every book that went into reading level, what type of social identity that book was and addressed, and just different, they could click on a picture of the book and get a taste of the book so that our teachers had access to more than just titles when they were selecting their books. And finally, we knew that just putting books in classrooms would be a great start, but wouldn't really complete the full project without some training on how to utilize these books. So we've partnered with the Justice Leaders Collaborative,
headed by Shayla Reese-Griffin down at Washington ISD to come and do training to all of our elementary teachers on the utilization of diverse books in their classroom and how to use that. In year one, which would have been 21-22, we had funding to offer every classroom teacher $300 to supplement their classroom libraries. So they got to choose their own books. We put out book lists and grade ranges, reading levels, but we know that every classroom library is different. So instead of prescribing what they were going to put in their classroom, we let every teacher select their own books. And they, for year one, were able to select $300 worth of books. Every classroom down to our early childhood special ed, which serves 2.5-year-olds and up to grade 5. That year, there was a committee that collected orders. You can see the slides and kind of some of the books on this slide. The Hair Love, bottom right, is the slide of one of the books that each of our teachers could see, click on it, get a taste of it, get some information about the book. And those slides were created for every book that we had on this list so that our teachers could really dig into it and take some time to select the books for their classroom. And so that was year one, collecting all of those, distributing them across our district, making sure our kids could see themselves in the literature. And we often use the analogy of the mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors also, so that our kids can see into the lives of others. We have a very diverse school population in East Lansing, especially being connected with Michigan State. We have a lot of students who come in even for a handful of years, and we want to make sure when they come in that they see themselves in our classroom libraries and in the authors as well. Last year, we expanded this into our book rooms. So in addition to our classroom libraries, each of our elementary buildings has a book room where teachers can check out small group bundles of books for Reader's Workshop, read-alouds, or classroom sets of books. So we wanted all of our classrooms to have access to additional books. So we have expanded this into our book rooms. So our foundation has supported that in our year kind of 2 moving into year 3, and that allows more accessibility for all of our staff members to all of these books. It has classroom book sets, small group book sets, and then picture books and read aloud. So we've really worked to expand access to everybody and training for everybody. And we know this is just the beginning of this initiative and plan to continue it first, probably next into our middle school, because we're finding that our middle school ELA teachers are really desiring more resources as well. And we know that replenishing these books, I mean, new books come out all the time, and that this is not a one-time put in our classroom, that this will be an ongoing effort to update and include books that not only represent students of different race, but also many different social identities of gender identity, sexual orientation, gender expression, religion, etc. So our kids really can both see themselves but learn about the other individuals in their classrooms. Thank you.
Dr. Butts?
Good morning. I'm Kelvin Butts, superintendent from Benton Harbor Area Schools. With our classroom, our diverse classroom libraries, our why was immediacy. It's no secret that we have a very low literacy rate there, and our initiative needed to be aggressive. So we actually started end of October, November-ish, when Dr. Garcia and I started to talk. And so with the emergency need, we decided to approach ours very aggressively. Within the next 3 weeks, we will be assembling 32 meta-diverse class libraries in all 32 of our elementary classrooms. So within less than 6 months, we will have implemented this within our classroom. So with our budget allocations, we braided some funding from my CLSD grant, from our RAD grant, and from ESSER 3s. We do know that these, the CLSD grant and the RAD grant, we never know how grants run. So we've also partnered with Whirlpool that has agreed to continue to supply our diverse diverse classroom libraries on a yearly basis with books that mirror our students. Our how that we did this was through training. So all of our teachers in our district are already undergoing letters training. Again, there is an emergent need to not only teach, but for our students to begin to learn to read. So all of our teachers are going through letters training. And the way we approached this was with the help of MDE, coming down to train our teachers. So we had the staff involvement, we had student involvement, and we had stakeholders. So we had the public involved as well, along with our board members were included in the selection of looking at and the purchasing of books. And as you can see on the slide, we had a all-inclusive approach to our diverse classroom libraries. So with this, we're starting at the elementary level. And of course, this is just the beginning because, again, we see the emergent need of our students getting the books in their hands and books that mirror them. So our books not only just mirror our students, but mirror the students that we're starting to see in our district. We have a emerging class of Hispanic students that are coming in. So even with the books that we've ordered, we've had to update our order to include mirroring those students that we see coming into our district. So it's always evolving. So we're very excited at what we're doing and how we plan to push it upward towards the high school. One thing I'll say in closing is that I know our students, and I'll go as far to say my students, deserve and want to learn these books. Yesterday, I was just in an expulsionary hearing, and the student stated, I looked at his grades. He had really good grades, and he had just made a teenager's mistake. And I asked him about his mistake and why was his grade so good. And he said his strive was to make top 10. And I asked him, so why? What's your why for making top 10? He said, because I want to see my name written in a book that I can take out of here and remember it forever. So with that, he's coming back on Wednesday to finish his education and to continue those good grades so that we can start to push this up from our elementary. But we know it starts in elementary school and it ends in high school. But that does not give us the excuse to not include the middle and high. But we have to start somewhere. It was intentional, what we do, starting in elementary, so that we can push it forward. And again, thank you for having me here today to share our story.
Thank you, Dr. Rutz. Superintendent Carhulis.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Theo Carhulis, the proud superintendent of Port Huron Schools. And I'm accompanied here with my incredible team, and really, they should be up here presenting, not me, but I would like to just take a moment and introduce them. I've got my assistant superintendent, Catherine Woolman, director of instruction, Janelle Hirschberger, supervisor of diversity, equity, and inclusion, Kyren Ajay-Obey, and supervisor of elementary instruction, Melissa Golding. So I really thank them for making the trip over from Port Huron. We're a large district on the east side of the state, carrying and educating for about 7,400 students. Our students of color make up 24% of our population, and 63% of our students come from economically disadvantaged homes. I do want to pause just to do a quick shout out to Dr. Rice and Dr. Carnell. I think the board should know they're very accessible and always there for us superintendents. Sometimes it's lonely out in the trenches, so I appreciate you both. My team and I are also honored to be here today and thankful for Dr. Garcia and MDE for highlighting our work. I know Dr. Taylor just showed it. I brought this along and you stole my thunder. You showed the first day in February, and the second day is us, Port Huron. So my team's already our little thing. So. And I bring that up really because the DEI work is often lonely, and little things like that sent out to every school district in the state validates our work, and we appreciate that. May seem like nothing, but it validates the work that's going on out in the districts. But now the reason we're here, our Port Huron story when it comes to our initiative really starts 3 years ago in the midst of COVID. COVID left us with an opportunity and also left us with funding. That's not always the case in education. As our students in Port Huron pivoted from in-person to at-home learning and back and forth, we sent a lot of resources and a lot of books home. And I'm sure it's not hard to imagine, a lot of those books didn't make it back. So we had a gap to fill. Over the last 3 years, we spent $340,000 through Title I, 31A, and ESSER on 14 school libraries and 138 classroom libraries. We refreshed. That wasn't the only opportunity. At Port Huron Schools, we take diversity in literature seriously, and we use that opportunity to diversify those libraries. We believe that students should be reflected in what they read and see themselves in who they read. It doesn't stop with just buying books. I can tell you that the DEI work is not easy. This year, all 500 teachers at PHASD are working with Colin Seal on tangible equity and teaching practices around deficit thinking. Dr. Taylor, you mentioned the justice leaders. All 54 administrators in our district are on a year-long journey through an intense training called Beyond Equity with the justice leaders, and we connected with them through MASA. Our DEI office and instructional services work hand in hand. They even travel together, I've noticed. They crafted read-around libraries for Hispanic, Native American, Black History, and Women's History months for our elementary classrooms. They chose books and lessons, distributing these to our classrooms. The goal is to emphasize authors, illustrators, and topics from traditionally marginalized communities. We're also very intentional in engaging our community in these efforts. You can go to the next slide. Or that is the next slide, thanks. In March, we engaged a new forming group in our area called the Hispanic Alliance for Southeast Michigan, who sent members in to read with our students. On February 24th, we brought 36 elementary students to the St. Clair County Community College for the National Read-In, where the kiddos read books written and illustrated by African Americans aloud on stage in front of our community. I was so proud of our little kiddos up on stage. You know, it's pretty nerve-wracking to get up and read in front of all these people, especially the little ones with their books. They were so brave, they did great. And on January 12th this year, we celebrated Dr. King's legacy, not on the 15th, because that's a holiday and we're closed. So on the 12th, we celebrated Dr. King's legacy through literature by partnering with the NAACP and having community members come in and read to our kiddos at all 9 elementaries and lead discussions around a common theme. I'll leave you with a quick verse from this year's book that we used. The book is called It Starts With Me. I'll just read a few pages. I know it's before lunch, so you know. Hate is a burden, and it's heavy to carry. Hate is like a monster that is horrifying and scary. Love is infinite. It has no beginning or end. Love is sincere. That means it does not pretend. I want to be loved because love can stop hate. Love is an eraser. It gives a clean slate. Thanks for inviting us here.
So with that being said, this is a nice way to pivot and to think about all that we have learned and all that hopefully we have been wowed or have in an aha moment as it relates to the intentional efforts here in this great state of Michigan specific to literacy and the learning thereof. As we summarize, we want to give homage and say thank you to our visionary and yes, legendary leader, Dr. Michael F. Rice, who brought this thought of diversifying literature, and we have a quote that we want to share and highlight. There is value and power in teaching diverse literature, and we must open that power to all our children so they can navigate the world in which they will live. To do any less is a disservice to our children who need to learn broadly about the literature and history of their country and world abroad. In summary, we highlight that skilled reading is a balance between learning to read, the how, and reading to learn, the why. While we designate March as Reading Month, literacy engagement should be intentionally celebrated beyond the school campus throughout the school year. As a closing thought, we note that diversity in literature unlocks opportunities for growth, professionally for staff, and academically for our students. And again, we say thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman, Dr. Garcia, Dr. Saylor, superintendents, MASO in the house. How cool is that? Board members, questions or comments? Please, Ms. Lipton.
I just want to thank you all. I really love the emphasis that all of you placed on the notion of school libraries as reflections of the community. I think that the more that we think about allowing local communities to really know their students, know their families, working hand in hand with the assistance, the guidance, and help of the department, but really allowing the local communities to take the lead. I think that that's really going to better serve students, better serve communities. I love the community partnerships that you outlined in your presentation regarding bringing in local bookstores, what have you. But I think the more that we can highlight schools as community hubs to really engage the community and to be really community driven is only going to enhance the educational experience for our learners. So I really appreciate the emphasis on your presentation on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Other board members? Reflections?
I would just ditto what Board Member Lipton said, and thank you all for your work, for coming and sharing that work with us. I think that this really highlights, what's going on at the district level, the innovation and all the thought that's going into literacy and how we improve upon literacy and make it more welcoming to families as well as children, and outlining how educators can best do that throughout the state. So thank you all for that, and as well as the department. Two things that I did note, and I'm happy that you mentioned that there's an invite for us as board members. I saw the big event, the meeting that took place, and I saw photos somewhere before I saw the presentation, maybe in a weekly report, but would love to be invited to something like that, just to be in the room, and because it looked like it was, well, obviously it was well attended, and the response was great. The other piece, and I will sign up, and I think all board members will sign up for the volunteer read as well. The other piece that I noticed was the best practice, the best practices resources. And we were getting calls, especially during I hope it was the height of the culture wars, but we were getting emails from schools, and we were having parents that were saying, my school won't allow us to do this, or read about this item. And I recall talking to Dr. Rice, about some of the requests that we were getting from locals on how parents as well as educators, how they should handle that. And I think one of the thoughts that you were having was some sort of a best practices resource. So I'm hoping that this can be used in that case.
So we have a number of resources which we've shared with local school districts. We've got a diversity and equity guidance document which came out of the Detroit literacy lawsuit, as you recall, from 2021. We've had a number of webinars. We've got a number of calendars that we've shared. We've got a diverse authors list that was put together in concert with the Library of Michigan, and the calendars with educators across the state. We're building out our work. It takes us some time, but so appreciative to have partners in the journey.
Absolutely. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Ms. Tilley.
I just wanted to echo, thank you all for coming. I'm really excited about this initiative. I think this is how we begin to change some of the narratives and create more inclusivity And I appreciate the partnerships with the community and bringing them to the table so that they can be engaged as well. So thank you so much for your hard work, and I appreciate MDE's partnership and leadership on this as well, too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Other board members? So back in the day, we didn't have a lot of competition for our time. A lot of us played sports until it got dark, and we read after that. But kids have a lot of different things that tug at their time at this point. And reading isn't always high on the list. So we have a special responsibility to be engaging and interesting and representative in the choices that we offer our children. That was harder back in the day. That is to say, back in the day when I was coming up, because there was less diverse classroom literature, less diverse classroom libraries, fewer books written by people of color, less literature that was diverse. But this literature, which is not only representative, is engaging for our young people. And that's really critical because the reality is they have more choices than we did back in the day. And that's represented in whether they choose to read or not. It's really important to improve on the how of literacy. And we're leaning into letters training with more than 7,000 educators doing letters training, which is tremendously detailed professional development. But at the end of the day, if kids don't want to read, if kids don't feel that there is a value to books, that there is something in books for them, uniquely for them, not for somebody else, but for them, they're not going to do the reading that drives their vocabulary development, their fluency, their comprehension, and that ultimately makes them proficient readers and then strong students as well. So some people see this as a function of politics. We see it as a function of two things. One, engagement of young people to help drive higher reading levels, but also fairness as well. If I can see myself in books, why shouldn't other children be able to see themselves in books as well? Board, I want to just appreciate my superintendent colleagues, my MDE colleagues. You rocked it out at this presentation, and last week the Lansing Center was packed to the gills with people from all across the state who wanted to work on diverse classroom libraries. That's a thing because I remember the first conference, and I remember the room in which that was held and the number of people who were there. It was held in a ballroom at the Bernhard Center at Western Michigan University 7 years ago, and the attendance was less than half of what it was at the Lansing Center. We're building engagement in literature, and with that, improvements in literature. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Board, it is 12:14. Next item on the agenda is the vote to convene closed session to discuss annual evaluation. As you are aware, the superintendent's annual evaluation is on the agenda this afternoon. According to Section 81A of the Open Meetings Act, public officer can request a closed session to consider a periodic annual personal evaluation. Therefore, I will entertain a motion to convene the closed session, followed by a roll call vote.
So moved.
So it,
Commentary.
jump on in there. All right, it's moved.
So
And
it's moved and it's seconded. Dr. Pugh, would you care to share additionally?
no, I just think, no, we'll just do it as provided in Section 81A of the Open Meetings Act, as you already mentioned, Dr. Rice. And so, Liz, you'll take the roll call vote?
Yes. Bullock?
Yes.
Lipton? Yes. McMillan?
Yes.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
Yes.
And Tilly.
I'll just tell her.
Very good. Board members, it is 12:16. Please use the restroom. And then there is lunch set up by the superintendent's office. And then move down to the regular conference room for the closed session. 12:16 will reconvene at 1:15.
Looks like he went to get Tiffany and got lost.
Bob, you've got the opportunity to have those superintendents now. Yeah.